Newzroom Afrika will be broadcasting live from the Expo 2020 Dubai. South Africa's participation at the Expo serves to promote the country as an attractive investment destination. Investors will also be provided with an opportunity to experience the country's diverse cultures, creative arts and tourism services. Nearly 200 nations are expected to be part of this Expo, and Newzroom will be bringing you the journey of 20 South African SMEs and startups that have been chosen to participate in the Multi-Choice Accelerator program. Now, the program aims to give support to entrepreneurs in their quest to build successful businesses. The Expo will run from the 1st of October until March next year. Let's take you to the Newzroom Afrika Dubai desk. That's what it's going to be called for the next 6 months. And look who has to pretend that they're actually working tonight. It's Ayanda Nyati. Ayanda, I know it's going to be hard. You have to put on your suit and tie and make the rest of us here at home feel like you're working. But let's talk about this Expo and why it's so important for South Africa.
Yeah, look, Kathy, the suit and tie really is the least of my concerns, and that's despite it actually still being 32 degrees Celsius, even at 7:30 in the evening. But to the order of business, believe it or not, I am at work. That Dubai desk you speak about is actually not too far from where I'm standing behind me. It's within the South African Pavilion, and essentially the Pavilion speaks to, if you like, the compartmentalization of each country within this expo. And South Africa has a really, really cool corner that I can't wait for you to see. And Newzroom Afrika, as you've rightly mentioned, is stationed right at the heart of that. We've been given the exclusive rights, for lack of a better term, to broadcast as an African broadcaster to the rest of the African continent. In other words, there's no other channel in Africa that is here. And so we're really excited about the role and responsibility we have. But this expo really, Kathy, is about ensuring that world leaders, influential people from business, labor, culture, governments are able to converge at this time. The expo in its current form existed in some form or another since the 1800s, and since then it's really grown exponentially, and we can't wait to bring you specifically what Team South Africa has to offer between now and I think it's March next year.
Of course, an important element to this expo is that while we're expecting to see world leaders, multinational corporations participating in the programs and events over the next 6 months, it also is going to be a big platform for small businesses. Let's talk about some of those that will be coming from South Africa and what they're really hoping or would be hoping to get from the international world.
Yeah, you know, the details around the individuals haven't been made available yet, but I'll tell you what, whoever they are, there's no guessing what they're hoping will be the outcome of this exhibition. Think about it, Kathy. If you had a small business being run somewhere in South Africa, I don't know, for argument's sake, Alexander, and you get the opportunity to engage with influential people on this global stage, the possibilities, for lack of a better term, are really endless. And that's really at the heart of what this expo is about. It's about bringing in people who might be within the peripherals, who are really good at what they do, who excel within their sector, and putting them on the world stage for them to continue contributing essentially for the betterment of the communities which they serve. But it doesn't just end with business. It's about also showcasing some of the best we have insofar as culture is concerned, insofar as some of our governmental policies in some instances. In fact, in one of the weeks, because the weeks are themed all the way until March next year, there's going to be a discussion around the morality of artificial intelligence and whether or not there are any kind of ethical considerations insofar as that is concerned. I can't wait to hear what people who are involved in that discussion have to say, especially in a context where in South Africa there's so much talk around the fourth industrial revolution. But in case I'm being drowned out, let me take a moment to also acknowledge the activity happening in the sky, Kathy. It's been ongoing for about, 45 minutes now. We're told it might be the sheikhs of Dubai. Those are essentially the supreme leaders of the city. They are also coming to this expo. And so as you can imagine, there's increased circuitization. In fact, you can't see it, but I'm going to mention it. Behind the lens, there's all kinds of discussions with some security personnel, and I imagine it's about ensuring that we too are allowed to be here, and we are, and B, are of course safe as the security checks continue. But to your question, I imagine any SMME that gets this amazing opportunity to be here is hoping that it'll open up the doors essentially, not only to audiences and markets in South Africa, but certainly across the world.
Ayanda, we are having elections in South Africa, and this is an expo and an event that has the full support of our government. How is that going to affect our participation in the expo? Do we know yet what it will mean for when we can begin to actively see at least some of our leaders participating in these events and joining their counterparts?
Yeah, well, interesting you asked that question, Kathy. Natim Tetra, who's the Minister of Arts and Culture, was initially meant to be at this expo. We're told now he's going to be replaced by the Deputy Director General of the same department. Whether or not that's linked to the uncertainty that comes with us approaching a general election is anyone's guess. I do imagine, though, that there's some kind of dis-ease, if that's even a term to be used, discomfort perhaps is the right one, about actually any government official representing South Africa on a global stage in a context where perhaps the party that deploys them to that position may not necessarily enjoy the kind of favor with the constituencies that are in South Africa. You and I both know how charged the political landscape currently is. There's all kind of speculation around how the dial may shift, but the direct connection, I'll be the first to admit, Kathy, between the elections in South Africa and how Team South Africa might be doing here aren't actually very clear. However, what is most interesting, at least from my vantage point, is that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to speak at 8 o'clock South African time. That's 10 o'clock our time. I have to keep doing the maths. And I think if he says anything about, for instance, opening up the economy, then I think we might see Team South Africa looking a whole lot more attractive, at least insofar as things like investment are concerned. Because if there's going to be any kind of investment, I imagine people want to be able to travel in and out the country freely, especially if we, as a country, feel like we have a handle over the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, and that really brings me to my last point, Ayanda. It's an international conference still in the midst of the global pandemic. So talk to me a little bit about what the restrictions are for people who are traveling in and out of Dubai for this expo right now.
Perhaps let's begin, Kathy, by speaking about what some of our audiences may have noticed at the very start of our discussion. It's called Dubai Expo 2020, but obviously we're in 2021. And no guesses around why that is. This was actually meant to take place as a start last year, and as with most global events, if not all aspects of our lives, was shifted a year later because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But you and I get to speak to you without a mask, but masks absolutely mandatory. There are sanitizers all over the place, as you can imagine. There are markings everywhere to try and ensure that we keep that 2-meter distance apart. But a lot of those restrictions, especially at the airport. In fact, this is my first time out the country since COVID-19 hit. And I tell you, it literally adds a total of about 3 hours to your journey, no matter where you are going in the world, because of the precautions you need to take. It's 2 COVID tests before you leave the country, another one when you arrive at your destination, all kinds of documents speaking to your health. And that sense of heightened alertness is certainly alive even at this expo, as we try to imagine what life looks like as an increasingly globalized community after the pandemic.
All right, Ayanda, let me not keep you any longer. You can make your way into some of the sessions there. Get a sense of the lay of the land. I know the expo officially only kicks off tomorrow, but Ayanda Nyati will be bringing us all of the latest coverage right here on Newzroom Afrika. You can expect to, of course, have more from him later on within the evening.